Hey Queen, welcome back to another video. Today we're doing the very classic straight back cornrows. Now this style is mostly popular in men, but I have been seeing a lot of women, especially during the summertime, rock this style. So if you still have your edges intact, consider yourself one of God's favorites because it's hard out here for us with no edges. So I will be going through just some tips on if you are braiding someone's hair who has very short hair. And without further ado, let's get into all the tips. All right, so tip number one, make sure the hair is moisturized. Now, I love a really good leave-in conditioner. You can use creams, oils, but whatever you do, do not overdo it. If the hair is already short and you add too much product, it'll be slippery. You won't get a good grip on it and the hair or your braid won't come out right. So just make sure that you don't overdo it with product. Use just enough, but not too much. Moving on to tip number two, I love a good blow dryer brush. Make sure your hair is detangled, whether you're using a comb, blow dryer brush, whatever mechanism you're using. I love a good blow dryer brush just because it straightens the hair just a little bit. Especially if you're working with kinky, coily hair, it works wonders to stretch out the hair, making it easier to braid, giving them a little bit of hang time. Tip number three, along with the blow dryer, I like to use a rat tail comb or some type of precision parting comb. I also keep a large comb on hand for detangling, so I like to use the rat tail comb for parting, making sure my parts are crispy and nice, and then I like to comb it out with a large comb or a large brush or whatever you have, but just making sure that you're not combing out the hair with a very small comb like a rat tail comb. If you're working with hair that has looser curl pattern, you might want to keep rubber bands on hand. I personally work with a lot of people or have done hair that's super coily and kinky, never had to use rubber bands before. But again, if you're working with looser curl patterns, rubber band will be your go-to just to make sure you're sealing the ends and they don't unravel. Tip number four is if you're using jam, don't use too much. I like to use jam here and there, especially if the hair is short, just because when you're parting, it makes the part a little crispier, but also the root, it gets the root a little tacky, making it easier to braid and keep the hair together. So I like to use a little bit of jam, but not too much. Going back to the whole, don't use too much product, because at the end of the day, it's going to be saturated with product and you won't be able to manage it while braiding. All right, where are we at? We are at tip number five. You didn't see me do this in the video, but I like to start by parting the hair down the middle first, because that lets me gauge how far left or right I am. So if I'm parting down the middle, I'm able to make sure that I don't run out of space in the kitchen, in the back area, because we've all been there where you're braiding, and then you get to the second to last braid and there's no hair left in the back because you did too much in the beginning. So just making sure that I have enough space in the back. When I'm finishing up my braids, I like to part down the middle and then just look left and right as I'm braiding to make sure that there's enough hair left in the kitchen to grab when I'm on that last braid. Going on to tip number six, if you're working with short hair, smaller sections will be your best friend. If you are doing ginormous sections, you might get the hair to stay for maybe 24 hours and then they sleep on it, the next day it starts unraveling. So I personally recommend that smaller sections is best for short hair. It might take longer to do and take down, but at the end of the day, it'll last longer. So smaller section, making sure you're parting it in small sections, but also you're braiding it as tight as you can without hurting the person that hair you're doing. All right, so last and final tip, I like to tell everybody, whether you have short hair or not, wear a bonnet. wear a scarf, wear a do-rag, whatever silk or satin fabric you have, wear it to sleep because it'll help making sure your hair lasts longer. The worst thing is to get your hair done or to do somebody's hair and then the next day it looks like they've been having it in for 2 weeks. So I don't care how good they look on day one, if they sleep without a bonnet or a scarf or anything, the next day it'll literally look like who did it and why. So tell your friends, family, if you're doing their hair, make sure that they go to bed with a bonnet on or a do-rag or a scarf or whatever. So those are all the tips that I have for y'all. I'm sure there are a lot more out there. If you have any tips that you want to leave down below in the comments for other viewers, please go ahead and leave some tips that you have as far as braiding or, maintaining your own hair. Don't have to be relating to short hair specifically, but just any tips that you have that might help other people. All right, y'all. Thank you all again for watching, and I hope you have a blessed day.